I'm glad you took it before they hatched.
All right, today I just want to finish up Unit 5 by talking about how to create custom cells in your table view controller so you can put extra stuff in there like more labels, or we're going to put an image in there and put a custom image in there for every single cell. For a change, as I just mentioned, everything actually worked. When I looked at my notes, I just had to translate the Objective-C to Swift, just. But it took a couple of switches. What I want to do with a couple of changes. What I want to do with my birthday app is next to each person's name show the month that they are born in. Right? So I've added to the supporting files a whole bunch of pictures, little icons for the months. And I modified the date class to return the month. And I was surprised at how ugly it is. Look at this. You have to create an NS calendar unit and tell it you want all three components of the month. And then you have to create a components object that pulls all the components from our date. And then you can say from the components array, give me the month. And that's the shortest answer I've found so far. So now in our date class, we simply say give me .month. I thought about using the toString down here and just stripping out the middle two characters, but knowing string processing, that probably wouldn't have been a whole lot better. But that was another option. All right, but this one's not too bad. It's 3 lines of code. It also, you used exactly the same code to strip out the day and strip out the year if you want to. So if you ever need to add the year to this, or you could create maybe a method and you send it in not only this one I don't send anything in, you send in which component you want. I'm imagining an enumeration or something. But even if it was an enumeration, you would have to pull out a piece part. So I think a switch statement would do and just send in a string, give you the month. But I think this works really well as also because you just say .month and it gives you the month. And you can pretty much just duplicate this code to get the year and the day. Okay, so that's what's changed. Nothing too serious. And now let's bring up my notes here. We need to make them just a smidge bigger. What I want to show you how to do is create custom cell layouts. And there's 2 ways to do this. The first way is the easy way, but it's not very self-documenting, and I would think that most of the iOS professionals out there would poo-poo it. What we're going to do is assign a tag to each one of the objects that we're going to place inside of our custom cell. And a tag, just like in C#, just like in most of the other languages, if there is a tag property, it is for programmer use. You can do whatever you want with it. This tag property in iOS needs to be numeric. The author that I stole this from, it's probably a couple of editions ago now, puts the numbers in there by tens. That way, if you decide you want to add some for some reason, you can, but the numbers really don't mean anything. They're just an identifying number for each object in that cell. So we're going to do that first because it's easy just to see it, and then we'll do it the right way, which is to create a custom class, a subclass of UI table view cell, and talk to it instead. And this isn't terribly difficult either. The tricky part's wiring it, but once it's wired, it's pretty good. So let's start with number 1 here. First thing we need to do is create. I'm going to switch to the master view controller now. Storyboard. Please. Thank you. And I'm going to the prototype cell. And I find this a little hard to select sometimes. So my advice is turn on your outline view and make sure that you have the prototype cell. So right now I have the master view. I want the table view cell. And some of you have already found that you can change the style of this, and this is last in my notes now. You can change the style of this to a right detail, left detail, or a subtitle. And the subtitle is really nice because it kind of tucks underneath. But what we're going to do is create a custom layout. So choose custom. As soon as you do, everything in your prototype cell goes away. And now we have to add our own objects to the cell. So I'm going down to the view list over here, and I'm going to find my trusty dusty label. I'm going to drag that up there, park it in there, And notice you get that rounded blue circle that you see is the area of the prototype cell that you can put stuff in. So I'm going to park this right up against the left edge and center it. You could change the font. You could do all kinds of stuff. And by the way, you could do that previously by saying, if this value is true, somebody's doing assignments, Justin, you could pick the ones that are due and change their color. Okay, that's an option, because now we're going to be doing this, and before, as you're filling the cell, we fill it the same way, but as you fill it, you now have a pointer to this beast, and you can do anything to it that you want before it displays. And then it gets added. So you could have some cells with blue text, some cells with red italicized bold text, completely customized. Your question?
How do you get that second left-hand bar to show?
This one? That's way down here at the bottom. Yep, outline view. And now I'm going to stretch my label so I've got lots of room. I'm going to leave just a little bit of room for my picture. My pictures, I found them on the web. I sized them to about 35 by 50, so they're 35 cells high or pixels high. It should fit in there very well. So go find the image view. Must have missed it. There it is, a little palm tree in it. And park that up here as well. And then resize it. And as you're sizing it, notice the width and the height pop up. Make its height about 35 and its width about 50.
What's your label at?
What's that?
What's your label at?
What's my label at?
Yeah, the size of your label.
I just stretched it till it looked good. I think that looks small to me. I'm going to stretch it about that big. I'm at about 73 by 35. Okay. And then I have my scale to fill, and it'll adjust and it'll look okay.
Is part of it hiding on the right side?
That might be. Good question. Good point. Thank you. Yep, that's the problem. So I line it with the left edge. And now if I size it to fit, come on, there we go. Size it to about 50, that looks better. If it's off by a pixel or two, it'll adjust it, but you won't be able to tell a difference. So now I have these custom objects in here. And as I mentioned before, we're now going to assign a tag number to each one of these. So here's my image. I'm going to assign a 20 to it because it's second. And my label, I'm going to assign a tag of 10. The tag is hiding somewhere. There it is.
I thought we were going to find the tag by the month.
What's the tag of the
20. Doesn't matter, whatever number you set it to, you just have to remember that. What were you saying about the month?
I was thinking that the tag was going to be used to explain what month it was.
No, the tag simply is an ID number that we have assigned I hate to call it random, but a programmer selected ID number that we have assigned to this object. That's all it is. Right, nothing more than that. All right, now that we have those, we don't even have to do any wiring. We have access to them by using that tag number. So let's go back to the master view controller and into the, I'm going to do my code folding here, editor, click in here first, editor, folding, oh come on. Fold, methods and functions probably works best. Okay, so everything's folded and we have to modify now, not the number of rows, but the row at index path. This is the one where we wrote the code. Just click on the 70, in my case the 74 right next to it to expand it. And this is where we display the cell. And before we just said use the standard built-in text label for that cell. What's interesting to me is that still seems to be there. I'm not getting an error, but we're not going to be using it anymore. We still want our object. This is our family member. We could easily change the name of that. Object's kind of generic. So we could change the name of that, but we still need to get the appropriate family member out of our array. But now, what we also need to do is create pointers, basically connections to those two objects that we created. So to do that, I'm going to try to bring up my notes and my code at the same time here. Don't think I need that sidebar for now. Don't think I need this sidebar. So now here's how we get at a piece of it. We create a pointer and we set it equal to the cell, and we already have a cell because we defined the variable cell right here. That's a decent name for it. We have a pointer to the cell. Give me the view with tag. Remember in Objective-C or iOS, all the objects that we're dropping on our forms, all the objects that we just dropped in the cell are called views. So we want to get the view with the tag. So this just gets us a pointer, and we just have to make sure that we use, now why is there a semicolon? That might need to be an exclamation mark. Might be a typo, but need to designate its type. So we just do the same thing. We need to define those first. So I'm going to say let my LBL name be equal to the cell view with tag. And I know that the label has tag number 10. But that generally, that works here, but later on when we try to use it, it gets confused because at this point we just have a view. So I'm going to typecast this as a UI label. I think this may be where the exclamation mark, let's see if we need it later. So far so good. Now we need another one. So I'm going to let the image month, call it whatever, equals the cell view with tag 20. And here you have to be careful. It's not an image. It's a UI image view. First time I wrote this, I wrote it as an image. An image is an actual picture. A view is something that lets us see the picture. So you have to watch out, in this case, since I'm using pictures, to use the image view. And we will put an image inside there. Oh, darn. There was one more piece of code I wanted to share with you, and I forgot. So we're going to have to do a little bit of typing, but it won't be too terrible. So now we have pointers to those two things, and we just use them. So I don't need my cell here anymore. If you want, you can comment that out. I think I will. Okay. And now we just say that the LBL name.text is equal to my object.fullname. And now I come to the point where I forgot a function. I wanted to include a function in here so you didn't have to spend time typing it, but it's not a bad thing. What I need to do is, first of all, get the month number and then translate that month number into the appropriate image name. So let's first write a function. So I'm going to come right underneath here so it's convenient and relatively easy to see. I'm also going to expand these two so I got a little more screen space to scroll up. There we go. Create a function called.
Couldn't you use your string format to format it as month abbreviation that you use?
And then concatenate. It's kind of what the function does. It's not a whole lot different than that. So I first wrote it with a switch. Yeah. Then I changed it to an array. Then yes, I could probably do the same thing there. So you try that one. I'm going to do it the way I wrote it before that I know works. All right. This is a function. I'm going to call it get month image with, what did I want to say? 4. And then inside here, I want to put a parameter. I still haven't quite figured out how to put something in here whose name has to show up. Maybe you have to give it an internal and an external name. Was it an @ sign or a star? What was it that said use this for both internal and external?
Wasn't it on Discord?
Wasn't it on what?
On Discord? Okay, you just use one, can't you? You just use one name.
I can just use one. What happens, what's weird is when it's a method inside of a class, it requires that name.
Okay.
When it's just a function like this, it doesn't require the name, and in this case, I almost want it to. Month number is going to be an integer. And this thing is going to return a UI image. So this function is going to return an image that we can then stuff into our picture. So that's my starter. But I have to maybe go check my syntax here to find out how to make this so that the month number label actually is required when I call this. Because then it'll read right? Get month image for month number 1, month number whatever. I think there's a magic key there. I don't think it was an underscore, but let's write the function first. First thing we're going to do is create an array of image names. Let month images equal an array. And I'll close it right away. And then inside here, you just create strings for each one of the months. The names are the 3-letter abbreviation .png. And this is where Adam's going to write it a little bit differently. He's going to format, but we don't know the current month, unfortunately, in here. But I could send it in a string. This is my solution. There's probably 3 or 4 more. So anyways, January.png, comma, February.png, etc. Pause the recording while we finish that. Remember, I don't know if I can. Might have to look it up again. I need to remember how to get an image, so I want to return a UI image with name. Is that what it was?
Yep.
It's not popping up for me. Named. There we go. Month images sub month number. No. Probably an exclamation mark because it might not exist.
I made it. You created the method.
Still not?
Okay.
Unresolved identity. Oh.
Yeah.
Do you need the exclamation mark?
You still have month numbers spelled wrong.
Grief. It's not that hard.
But you do need the explanation.
Now I need, because this UI image might not be able to be extracted and converted, and now everything's cool. So now when we want the month number, actually I want the image. So up here, I'm ready to, I'm back up into the table cell for row at index path, building my cell. In here, I want to go to the image month.image equals get month image for month number, and I would like that month number to show up again. So before I quit, because I should have time. Did you find it? What is it?
I got it.
What's that? What are you looking for?
How do I make the month number stick? Because right now I don't have to type in the month number. I don't know if I can even. Month number, see, it doesn't let me. Month number, I want to get my object.birthdate.month. That .month, for those of you who snuck in a little late, is a new method or a new property, calculated property that I added to my date class. And we should be done. So we'll let it run. While it's loading, I'm going to do a quick little bit of research here, going back to my Swift Unit 1 notes, see if I can find out or remember strings, arrays, defining classes, input, output. Did I do functions as a separate unit? No, that was classes, wasn't it? Dictionaries, arrays, debugging. Accessing class properties, types, built-in classes, inheritance, built-in messages. old stuff. How's it working? Ha! Pretty good. Okay, so now let's just do a quick test. What happens if I change my month to March, save it, changes the icon. So now you can start dreaming up all kinds of cool stuff. Last year I had people turning these things in with 3 or 4 icons on there to represent different things. You can put text underneath, because if you've got room to squeeze it in the cell, and I think you can even make the cell a little higher if you wanted to. I haven't gone that far. But this is primarily what I'm looking for you to do in part 2 of Unit 5. In addition, be able to edit and save and add and save, all the rest of that kind of stuff. So that's another test I haven't done. Let's add a new one here. And he's born today. That's good. Save. November. No problem. One of the things I forgot to add to the assignment that I will probably do while you're in lab today is extra credit to sort these. Figuring that out should be a bit of a challenge because they're in an array of classes, and how do you sort an array of classes? I don't know right now. That's why I'm going to make it extra credit, like 25 points or something. Okay.
Where's that sort?
All right. Second part. That's the better technique. I think this is a better technique, is to create a subclass that defines what's in my cell. Right, so we're going to create a new Cocoa Touch file because we want to be able to give it the cell type. The difference between Cocoa Touch and regular files is you can define a type for it. If I just ask for a regular file, I get an empty file. If I ask for a Cocoa Touch file, I get a class file basically, and it's a Cocoa class. It's not Cocoa Touch. Forgot to change that. But if I ask for a Cocoa class file, then it says, what do you want to subclass from? What do you want the superclass to be?
You can do all that manually.
You could do it manually, yes. So that's the only thing you gain there. But I did discover when I did this that for some reason it wants to import Cocoa, and it says there's no such thing. So you have to change it to UI kit, and then it shuts up. Right. So we're going to create a subclass, and then we are going to manually add outlets for our 2 objects. Manually. And then the tricky part comes when we try to wire them to the actual code. Say when the user clicks on, when I'm talking about this, it's named that, and wire it up so we can actually refer to it in code. So let's create that class first of all. I'm going to create a new class, file, new file, and I'm going to create a Cocoa class.
That's OS6.
Pardon me?
That's OS6.
Maybe that's what I was doing wrong.
It should be Cocoa Touch.
New file. You're right. That's probably what I was doing wrong.
Default to OS6.
I still made it work, but iOS Cocoa Touch class next. What do we want to call this? Let's just call it custom cell. And it's going to modify the UI table view cell. That's probably what I did wrong because I was getting Cocoa instead of
Are you leaving that up there?
Kit. What am I leaving up there?
Custom cell table view controller? Or cell?
I want it just to be custom cell. That's the name of my class. All right, this is what I'm subclassing from. Table view cell. Next. Where do you want to put it? Yeah, put it in my project. Now it's in there, and this one does come with a UI kit. We really probably don't need a wig from nib, and this is new to me because I accidentally made it without all this stuff. The one I built didn't have anything. Set selected. I think that allows me to say make this the selected cell, so if I want to in code do it. I don't think we need any of that. So I'm going to be brave. And now I want to create this Iboutlet manually because we really don't have anything to drag in here. Okay. So I'm going to create a Iboutlet. Just going to copy that code you see up there. And then whatever I want to call it, and this is my LBL name, colon, UI label. Then add another one, Iboutlet. And it has to have an exclamation mark, by the way. I'm going to get there in a minute. I'm having typing issues today. Image month, colon, UI image view, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Done. That's really all we need. We're saying that a custom cell has these two components. And then we're going to wire those physical components to these here in just a minute. So the next thing we need to do is tell that master cell. So I'm going back to the storyboard. I'm going to pick my prototype cell again. I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to use cell here. And I'm going to go to its identity inspector. And its class is UI table view cell. No, it's not. It's a custom cell. Should be on the list.
Mine has it.
Yep, don't select the label. You want to select the entire cell first, and then we're going to do the labels. Okay. Now we need to wire, we have our objects here. We need to wire them to the cell as well. And that was the part that was confusing to me. I was trying to wire them to the label things here, and that's not what we want to do. We want to wire it to the cell. So I'm going to select the label.
Label for the cell.
The label. So now we're wiring these individual components, and we're going to use the connection inspector. And according to my notes, we want the referencing outlets. You drag the referencing outlet from here to the cell. When you drop it, you get a list of choices, and there's my label name. Then select the image and do the same thing. When you drop it on the cell, the image will show up because it recognizes the types.
I don't have them.
Hmm?
I don't have the
You're dragging it to the cell,
cell. Accessory view, background view, editing, accessory view, select.
but you don't have your image?
Nope.
You drag, when I drag my label, I don't have my image. When I drag the image, I have my image. Yeah.
When you drag your label, you don't have the image, no,
Yeah.
because it's the wrong type.
Yeah.
But when you drag the label, you should see the label. When you drag the image, you should see the image. If you don't see either one, then my guess is, there it is, okay. If you miss, it's probably because the cell's still the wrong type. You check your identity inspector and make sure it's a custom cell. Other than that, your label should show up. Even if you mistyped it, it should show up.
When you select this, when you select the cell and then you change it, then you have to go click the label in the cell.
Yes,
I missed the clicking the label.
okay. You have to select the label and say, this is what I'm wiring. And then you select the image and say, this is what I'm wiring using the connection inspector. And now they're wired.
Should be able to do that the same way. Like, I would think you could still drag them over there
Drag them over where?
with your code on one half.
But the code, oh, once you tie this in, that's true. Because once you tie this in, then I could use my little assistant over here. So I'm going to close my outline view. And I can probably use my assistant because now I know, yep, could have done it. You're right.
And also, if you once you have the class, you can select click that. You can't see it in here, but there's options to select which file is over there.
Which file is over
Which
here?
file is over there? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can do some of these things.
Yeah, so
But this is the part that was missing in my notes or that I didn't understand, but it makes perfect sense. Once I have defined this cell as a custom cell, then when I ask for the assistant, I get the custom cell assistant code. Right? So I probably could have control drag from here to here, yep, and created an outlet, and it would have wired it.
What are you clicked on when you do that? Because I don't get that.
I clicked on in my case, it's the circles. In your case, it's the little guy with the tie.
No, I have the same one, but it's,
You get a different file there?
yeah, I'm getting the master view controller.
Maybe because you don't have, I clicked the label in here and then went to the assistant.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
what I
also
did.
drag the file into that window, that second window.
So you can
Really?
pull from here to there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot easier than
If
trying to
you do it,
navigate with that
I
junk
think
up
you
top.
just have to drag it up top, where the custom cell, that switch custom cell is.
There. Okay, so yes, we could have done it that way. I should modify my notes because that's what we're used to. Because the other one's kind of tricky and then picking it. But now we should be done with this view. So I'm going to turn off my assistant. I'm going to go back to the master view controller. And we're going to change the code in here again. Now we don't necessarily need these labels, so I'm going to comment them out so that you can retain. See, again, what I don't like about these 10s and 20s is it really doesn't tell you which one's what where. Of course, you're a good programmer, so you put comments on the end saying this is LBL. Actually, it's the name. These names kind of help me, don't they? And so now I don't have these anymore, so they go away. Actually, they don't. Those objects that we just created are part of our cell now. But before we do anything else, one last step. We have to change the type of our cell variable. Our cell variable is no longer a generic table cell, it is a custom cell. Once you define it as a custom cell,
Where was that at? Table?
I'm still in the cell for index at row path. Yep, table view controller. Cell for row at index path where we were before. This very first object, the cell, change its type to custom cell. Now that it's a custom cell, we gave these objects the same name, so all I have to do is stick cell at the beginning of these, and we're done. If we hadn't given them the same name we did before, then we'd have to put the names in there. So now our cell is a custom cell, and we say change its label, text to the full name, and give me the month image just like we did before. Not really that much harder, and I think probably a little more flexible, so if you decide you want to add something, you can add it. Again, you could say cell.labelName.font, color, whatever, and start tweaking them and put if statements in here if you wanted to. I'm already tweaking my image based on the month number. I could also tweak the font with an if statement, saying if it's overdue, then make it red, bold, whatever you want to do. Change the icon, you can do anything. I have lots of icons, so I created a method to figure out which icon I want. If you only have a regular assignment and an overdue assignment, that's 2 icons. You could just use an if statement to sort them out.
I emailed you the code that I used for the image.
Okay. A little cleaner than mine?
I like it. But
Well, all right. I just need to test this real quick, make sure it's still working. And then we should be close to done. I don't even remember how to spell it. That's terrible. So that's what I'm looking for your part 2. And in a minute here, I'll bring up the code that Adam wrote, and you can pick and choose. I'll probably zip them both, and you can look at it. But what he's got is just a little different way of picking the images in case you have tons of images like I have here. But what you need is some way to figure out which image to display in each cell. And you don't have to have, my instructions don't say you have to have 12, 15, 30 images. But it does say you have to have 2 items at least in your cell, and one of them cannot be a label. So you can put sliders here, you can put segments there and pick different segments. I don't know. I wouldn't use a segment.
You use a slider.
I wouldn't use this. Okay, maybe not a slider. I'm talking about a switch. And you set the switch on or you set the switch off based on what the user picks. But then users want to click on those, right? So images are probably the best choice, but I'm not forcing you there. I'll let you come up with something else if you wish. And there only really has to be 2.
So it can be a label or it can be, but it doesn't function.
One of them can be one of them's probably going to be a label because that's what you and I read, though it doesn't even have to be, does it? All my instructions say is that one of them should be something other than a label. Doesn't say anything about the other one.
Okay.
So you can do what I did here and just make a label with a picture. That's the easy answer. You could do dual pictures. Instead of my name, I could have my picture in here if I have pictures of everybody. Or I could have my picture on the left and then the name and then my birth month image. I mean, you can dream it up. You know, have some fun with it. You can do some cool stuff. Okay. So our next task is to figure out a due date for this. I'm looking at next week, 3 weeks. That sounds like a long time. That puts you right before Thanksgiving, I believe. I'm looking at next week lab for you to work on this.
Fine.
You're okay with that? I figured you might be.
Both days?
Both days. You okay with
Figure
that?
out what he's gonna have us do next.
I'm going to leave it as a 30-point assignment. Consider it a Thanksgiving gift. I don't think it's that hard, but I don't know yet. I wrote one in class. So, due date. We are here all of next week. This is Thanksgiving. My concern is you're all going to turn in on the 26th, and I get to grade them over Thanksgiving, but that's okay because I got 4 days.
You can make it on the 28th.
Yeah, I could do that. All right. You all still turn it in on the 26th. If it's sitting there in my to-do list, then I can't handle. I can't enjoy my turkey, but that's okay.
Make it the 24th.
24th.
That would turn it down.
It's well enough before Thanksgiving that you can.
Yeah.
During the middle of the week, I see that week as a lot of lab anyways, but during the middle of the week, I get very little grading done, so it really doesn't matter.
You're gonna get mine on Sunday.
26th is fine.
26th?
Mhm.
Okay.
So preferably get it in, you know, like.
It's up to you.
first,
No, there's
so-
no preferably, you just don't want it hanging over your head over Thanksgiving, so that's what we did there. Don't worry about me and my grading. That's a 4-day weekend. I can take 2 days off and relax and still have 2 days to grade. So don't worry about me. What'd you say? You emailed it to me, right? So let's just take a real quick look at what Adam generated, and again, I will save it so that you can see it. It's just a different technique of dealing with those months. Oh, okay. I thought you were going to send me the whole code, but you
No.
could do that too. But here's what he did. This is actually embedded inside the cell for view control, or cell for this row, right? Or that, whatever that thing's called. So here he said, give me a named object, take the birth date to string, format it with just the month name, concatenate the PNG, that gets turned into an image, attach it to the object, and you lately just added the cell to the beginning with the custom class, right? Cool.
So is that just in the return statement?
No, this isn't, there's no function.
Oh,
This is, if I hadn't closed mine, this is right inside the function where we said cell.image equals. You replace my function call with this statement that says use the birth date to string function to get the name, attach the extension, and go get that image for me. That's not bad. If I showed that to my programming logic beginning class, though, it'd kind of like, what? I mean, if you look at it, we're instantiating a new image with a named object whose name is based on a month and a custom birth date class that we have. Concatenate that. And,
You can make that a variable if you want to make it clearer.
I don't know if that would help a whole lot, would it? Because this would just say var image equals and then make the money. I don't think it would help any.
We could say that the var image name equals that, and then
Yeah.
then it makes a little. I mean,
Maybe a little bit better for those programming logic beginners, but you're almost ready for iOS intermediate. So you just have to look at it and sort it out. Good. Now it's in the recording. That's good enough. Anybody wants that, I can. Nah, it's in the recording. Copy it from there.